Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well today. And we've got some more Seahawks updates. Not much of a training camp today, nothing in terms of on the field work because it's the day before a game. But we do have some updates from the man himself, Pete Carroll. He came out and gave a conference a little bit ago talking about the state of some of these injured players. And most of the updates he gave were positive. Most of the updates he gave were quite good. Not all of them, though, and we're going to lead off with the one thing that he had to say today that was kind of more in the negative. Although this is, at the end of the day, small potatoes. We have a new injury that I was not aware of until Carroll came out and said it, and it's a serious one to Joshua Onujiogu. So Joshua Onujiogu has been waived with an injury designation. He will revert to our injured reserve list, assuming he clears waivers. And they don't yet know if he's going to have surgery on that elbow, but it is apparently a serious injury. So it sounds like he's going to miss this season. Now, obviously, Onujiogu was not really a big part of our plans this season. He was probably going to be a practice squad guy, outside chance at the roster. Probably at the end of the day, a guy who gets called up a couple times from the practice squad if healthy. So this certainly isn't the end of the world. But it is unfortunate for him because he showed me a little something last year. I didn't mind what I saw from Onujiogu last year at all, as far as a UDFA type player goes. So Joshua Onujiogu goes to the waiver list, and if he clears waivers, he'll be back, but on IR, and I can't imagine you'll see him again this year. So hopefully he doesn't need surgery at the least, but either way, it is significant. Okay. We replaced him on the roster with Anthony Maltavo. I don't know very much about him other than that I believe the Dolphins waived him 3 days ago, so we're kind of shifting around the interior defensive line guys a little bit. We're bringing in new guys, kicking out old guys, trying to find the right rotation. So this is just kind of the latest guy to get pushed through, and we'll see if we can strike gold a little bit here and shore up that interior defensive line. All right, so that's it for the roster news. Now let's go into what Carroll said about these injuries, because he said actually quite a bit today. Okay, Brady Henderson has this thread here, Twitter, or X now, X thread here, where he kind of goes over all the injuries that we're currently sitting on. So he goes over basically everything that we could have had a question about, and he leads with one of the big ones in Witherspoon. So Witherspoon is dealing with a hamstring injury, not believed to be serious, shouldn't be out long. Now, it is a hamstring injury. Hamstring injuries, they can linger on for a lot longer than you expect. So this is definitely something where we're not going to be 100% comfortable until we see him out there moving fluidly. But according to Carroll, doesn't look serious. So should be a thing where maybe he misses this first preseason game. That's possible. Maybe he misses a little bit of time after it. But it doesn't sound like this is going to be something that derails his rookie season. At least not by itself. So that's good news. It is the same hamstring that caused him to miss some time early in the spring, but in a different spot. That's another thing some people are going to be a little alarmed about because this guy has already had a hamstring injury earlier this year. But doesn't sound like anything serious right now. So that's good news. More good news here in the secondary as well. Joey Blount, apparently he's fine. He got carted off the field after a hard fall, but sore back is about it. No damage at all per Carroll from Brady Henderson. Says he's fine, hopefully be back next week. So that's not really going to be any kind of a significant hit to this team. If he only misses a week, then we dodged a bullet, as this tweet says. Or Zeet. But, again, I don't know if Joey Blount was going to make the team either way. I think he's very much a fringe guy, but this is obviously going to help if he's actually able to be out there. And it obviously helps if he, especially if he doesn't have to go on IR, which it sounds like he won't have to, because whenever you hear the cart come out, you assume it's possible that the guy could just have his season be over, and that's not the case. So, good news there. Joey Blount, fine. No big deal at all. The cart was just a precaution. Eskridge was back today. Carroll didn't really specify, just so that he's fine now and that he should play in tomorrow's preseason opener. So we don't even really know what the injury was, but it looks like he's going to be out there for this first preseason game. So whatever it was very, very minor, borderline insignificant, actually. So good news there, although obviously Eskridge is a guy who we know we won't have for the first 6 games, so of limited value. Darrell Taylor, and this was one I was kind of waiting on because we knew about this injury for a while and got no real information on it. He is still out. He's still got that shoulder sprain. According to Carroll, making good progress. He looks better now than he did right after the injury happened. He's recovering. But in order to get a timeline, apparently they're going to need to see some kind of. They're going to need to see him use his shoulder more to figure out exactly where he is. So at this point, they can't offer up a timetable, but it sounds encouraging. It sounds like something that's not going to hold him out for an extended period. So Darrell Taylor seems like he's going to be fine. He's going to be back soon. So good news there because we need him. He is probably going to be the first edge rusher off the bench. Ken Walker, we also got an update there, which was great because we haven't heard a lot about Ken Walker lately. Not a serious injury per Carroll. Walker is running at full speed. The only thing he hasn't started yet is cutting. So apparently that's going to come in the next couple days. So sounds like Ken Walker is coming close. I don't expect him to play very much, if at all, in the preseason. This could take a week or two to completely clear up, but it sounds like he is well on track to be ready to play for week 1. Now, I can't speak to his availability at 100% this season, but that's a little bit of a different thing, and I think we all kind of understand that a very few football players are 100% once you get a little bit into the season, so that kind of just is what it is. But Walker sounds like he's getting close. Dareke Young starting to improve per Carroll, taking a little bit of a turn. Still don't know if he has a sports hernia. So this is going to be a big week for Dareke Young because if it is a sports hernia, that could take some serious time. That could cause him to miss several regular season games. So hopefully we get better news in the coming days. But he is starting to improve per Carroll, so we'll take that as good news as well. Damian Lewis, and I was really waiting for an update here because this is a big deal. We cannot lose Damian Lewis. He was ill. So no injury here. He was just had some kind of illness, and he was back after missing 2 days. So great news there. Big sigh of relief on the Damian Lewis thing. Looks like he's good to go. Vi Jones, however. This is one of the injury updates we got that was a little more serious. Vi Jones, legit ankle sprain. So when Carroll uses that language, that means this guy could miss some time. This guy could be out a while. This guy could miss several regular season games, which is too bad. He was one of the guys who was really kind of showing up in a positive way so far in training camp. So that's a tragedy. He was very possibly going to be the first or second linebacker off the bench. The good news is we did do some things to patch up our inside linebacker spot in the offseason, enough to where V. Jones was not going to play an immediate big role. But I don't expect to see Jones for the preseason. And honestly, I think you could kind of reasonably expect it to bleed off into the regular season as well. But not a huge loss at this point. Last thing that Carroll had to say on the injury front concerned Adams and Brooks, the 2 guys who are on the PUP. He spoke very positively about their rehab. They're not restricted in their movement, doing full speed workouts, direction changes per Curtis Crabtree here on Twitter. And the only thing that remains is they're building back up their in-game shape and all that kind of stuff before returning. So they are both close. They both sound like they are very close. So great news there, especially on the Adams front, because whatever you guys think about him, I think he is a great fit for this defense, and I think a healthy Jamal Adams makes this defense significantly better. I don't think our defense would have been nearly as bad last year if Adams was healthy. I think that when he got hurt, we had to change all of our plans, and we ended up having to resort to far inferior players for good stretches of the season. Guys like Josh Jones, guys like Teez Tabor, and there was a pretty serious effect. Jonathan Abram was actually part of that as well. So Jamal Adams being out there for week 1 is a big deal, and it sounds like he's getting there. And Brooks, I already made the video about him yesterday. So Brooks getting back out there, also a very big deal. So I'm glad to hear the rehab is going well because it was easy to fear the worst with at least one, if not both of these guys going into training camp. And the final thing that Carroll spoke on in the press conference today was the nature of the preseason, who's going to play, who's not going to play. He basically didn't say anything of real concrete value. He kept things very vague. They asked Carroll, how important is it to get Drew Lock a lot of reps in the preseason? And he said Drew is going to play a lot of football during the preseason. He didn't say how much. He didn't say how much Geno was going to play. He didn't say how much Metcalf was going to play, or Lockett, or Cross, or Dareke Young, or Tariq Woolen, or anybody. He's keeping it vague right now on who is going to play in the preseason. So can't really yet say what we're going to see until we actually get to the game. And obviously, it's the preseason, so that's a little less important to most people, I think. It's more interesting to see what are the general schematic and general philosophy changes from last year, because I think a lot of us expect there to be at least some. But yeah, Carroll's not given away much of anything on who's actually going to play in these preseason games. Didn't comment on how much Geno will play, if at all. I would expect Geno to play some. You look back at the Russell Wilson era, Russ pretty much always played a decent amount in the preseason, even though he was pretty much cemented in as the starter for all those years. But he still played a little bit in the preseason, so I don't think Geno gets the sit on the bench the whole preseason treatment like you've seen with some of these starters across the league. But yeah, not a lot of word on who's going to play in the preseason beyond the guys who are obvious, like he said Eskridge would play, but there's no reason for him to not play. So we'll see what happens tomorrow, but keeping things tight right now in Seattle. See you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think down below.